And the Twins pregame is at 9:30, the first pitch at 10:10, because on this Monday, Patriots Day, the Red Sox always play around 11 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. So this date, 1775, you and I are fans of history. Obviously, America and the revolutionaries there, Paul Revere. We always grew up thinking it was just Paul Revere on a horse, running through town, yelling the British are coming. When in essence, the history is not exactly, here's a shock. Some of the history's been skewed over there.
Yeah, the Potomac might be wider than you
could be a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Paul Revere had two others there that were also warning people. And then that was Billy Dawes, known as William Dawes.
They didn't have a good publicist.
And Samuel Prescott. So there were three fellas that were warning that the British were coming. But yet Paul Revere is the one
got all the credit.
And here's another thing I'll throw into that. That language, he probably didn't say the British are coming, Like that statement, it's attributed to Revere, but as I looked it up, it says it's unlikely he used that wording. It's probably a little more frantic, who knows what he was saying. But historians will say he probably didn't just say the British are coming. There's probably more to that.
So noting that years ago, with the lack of medicine as we have it today, that people, their average age of that they passed away was lower than
60s,
it is today,
50s,
even though
70s,
we're starting to go backwards on that. But how old do you believe Paul Revere lived to be?
That is a great question. 7 points. 35270, as fast as you can text in. How old?
Do you know, Jack?
I do not know.
Closest to wins 368 rubles. Go.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Which means 1 cent.
Oh,
and we
terrible.
Can't get that right now from the U.S.
I'll let you go first. How old was Paul Revere when he passed? Do you know?
I do.
Okay,
47.
that's a good guess.
I don't know if it is, but I mean.
Guessing first is dangerous in this.
Well, he had an occupation because he was a cobbler or what was
Silversmith.
Silversmith.
Different.
Very, very good at it, by the way.
Okay. I mean, you got to be old enough to like curve knives.
Okay, we're just guessing an age.
All right. Well, I'm trying to educate
he's
this
working
guest,
through
and I'm
it,
not allowing people to text in.
Through it.
See how I pulled that out. So you said 47. I will go. I think Paul Revere easily because he had 3 children.
I had more than that. But yeah.
I took a shot.
Hey, in those ages, you could start
Robbie Revere.
Really early.
I need to be revered.
I need to be revered.
And see me in the rear.
What?
In the back.
In the rear.
In the back of the in the back.
Do not look at me like I'm the trouble with that one.
Meet me in the back of the building.
Not the one that's at fault there.
I don't mean that.
Do you have a guess?
He's 53. He was 53.
Oh.
He died. He fell off a horse. And then
was punctured by his flag.
That's it.
Yeah.
I
got dementia, started yelling the Cubans are coming.
He passed in an accident.
Is that how he died?
I'm guessing.
Oh, are we guessing deaths now too?
I don't know how he died. I know he didn't die in the war.
I'm going to guess that he passed in
He lived to be an age 83 years old.
Wow.
83. He
Basically
died
just double mine. Holy moly.
You can add hours.
1818. In fact, there's a portrait of him at his advanced age.
How tall was Paul?
Paul was
I'm going to go
6'11".
No, he wasn't. Because people were never 6'11" back then.
That had to have been pretty old for that time, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, that had to be
like he had to be
very
ancient.
Much so. Yeah. 83, you said?
83. He was 41 when all this stuff was going down, and
when did he pass away?
He passed away in 18,
like early 18. Yeah.
Yep. 1818.
I got Revere at 5'3".
He won that one.
Was he? How tall was he? 5'3"?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
Does it give the age? By the way, I might be the only person in this room who has done this, but I have actually. When Wikipedia said, "Give us a couple bucks,"
you've done that.
I've done it.
It's
I'm
an amazing thing.
Huge fan of Wikipedia.
It's an amazing thing.
I don't know who sat in front of these keyboards and typed this all in.
One person.
I know that they get it wrong because my Wikipedia is wrong, but.
It's not wrong. It's just lacking information.
Yeah,
it's wrong. It has me on the radio in the afternoon.
Okay.
Right. I mean,
it hasn't been updated.
Right.
The average lifespan of a man in 1818 was 44.
Look at that.
Yeah, Paul
doubled it.
That's working around all that
proved
silver.
them all wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of what it's all about.
It's an interesting date in history. Not only could you have a free bath in New York with strangers on this date, and then Paul Revere and then Billy Dawes and Samuel Prescott all ran around, the British are coming, or watch out, here they come, or whatever it was said officially. On this date, Joe Montana retired from the NFL and Wayne Gretzky played in his last game. How about those two sports pieces in history?
All on this exact same date or on this date?
Gretzky played his last game 4 years.
Okay. I never know how,
in 1999, and then Montana on this date retired from the NFL in 95.
So my grandson on the way home from services yesterday, we started playing because we went to my Lola's, First Communion was yesterday.
Sweet.
Yeah, at your church. Yep. In Wapton.
The Blessed of Holy what?
Matrimony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
By the way, you have a really cool church, and they had a great band up front.
Bethel Lutheran.
Little plug to Bethel.
So I'm there watching Lola, and then Reed and I are driving home, right? And so we started playing greatest quarterback ever for a team, right? For a team.
Great game.
Right, it was. And, of course, I came up with names he didn't know, and he came up with names that I should have known.
You said Tommy Kramer. He said...
I said Fran Tarkenton.
No, that's right.
Yeah, and he said, okay, so let's play. Who was the greatest quarterback ever to play for the Giants?
Fran Tarkenton. Did he get both?
Well,
Did he get both?
I did bring it up as a joke, but
I would probably say Eli Manning would be in that ballpark.
And I said Phil Simms.
Phil Simms would be a thought. Someone gave me a Roger Staubach card, by the way, randomly the other day.
Wasn't Y.A. Tittle of...
What's his name?
Y.A. Tittle.
Y.A. Tittle.
That's just, I'm showing his card, right, Joel?
Right
here.
Right. That and he's kneeling with blood streaming down his head. That's the other famous.
That's a great game.
Right, it is. For the Detroit Lions.
I'm going to write that down because during Red Hawks broadcast, I always have games going on that stream a broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
I may have to use that. Like the greatest player to put on this uniform.
Who is the greatest quarterback ever to play for the Green Bay Packers? That's one that'll get people
It's a generational
fighting.
question.
Yeah,
it is, so. Isn't it? It's a generational question. If you ask Tom Szymanski, his answer might be different than
we should ask Tom. Is he paying attention?
I think so.
The
Tom.
Tom,
are you there? No.
Nope, he's not.
Whoop. Tom. No.
Nope.
Next time.
The Packers are coming. The Packers.
You know who they're going to, generationally, they're going to think Bart Starr, but he was nowhere close to the other two that should come to mind. He wasn't. I mean, look at his stats. Look at how he played.
I think he'd be hard-pressed, whether you like him or not, with the numbers he's put up, the games. I mean, I think you'd be hard-pressed not to say Aaron.
I mean, clearly Aaron Rodgers. I mean, who would have thought that you wouldn't be saying Brett Favre?
Right.
But it's Aaron Rodgers.
I think Rodgers, yeah. Brett Favre might say Aaron Rodgers. Who knows?
Yep.
So that's
Insect ancestors, the hexapoda, likely originated during the early Orvadichian period.
Sorry.
I don't know where that came from.
He's just into science today.
Yeah.
He's like Bill Nye.
If there's any entomologists, give Jack a call.
Orvicilia.
Stick around, folks. We're coming back with more riveting radio right after this on the News and Views Radio.
Carnes.
You are such a teaser.
I had this I had it queued up right before you guys said it, because that's the song I thought of when you guys were talking about running songs.
Your Mount Rushmore of songs, the greatest songs in the history of songdom.
Songdom.
With
is that a word?
Top 4.
Yeah, today it is.
See, I'm working on my game.
This morning I asked the boys and the girls and the ladies and the men the top 4 songs ever with the word run in the title. Run in the title. Somewhere in the title has to be the word run, and this was on there.
Yeah.
This is what you
Born
said.
to Run would be.
I think Born to Run, Running on Empty, Running Down a Dream, maybe. Isn't that? Maybe.
Yeah. I'd have to hear some of the other ones.
Not ran, not past tense, but run. The letters R-U-N somewhere.
You know what I was doing 37 years ago today in terms of running?
Running for office?
I was running to St. Francis Hospital in Breckenridge, Minnesota.
Oh, we've got a birthday.
You have another birthday?
Yep. Ashley Renee, or Brooke Ray's.
Brooke's birthday.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Brooke.
It's Brooke
Happy
Renee,
birthday.
by the way.
Were you... Why...
What?
Do you know your kid's middle name?
Yeah, it's Brooke Renee.
Okay.
Were you? Did you wake up during the pregnancy and look out over that pond of Lake Elsie and say, "I think we should name this one Brooke"?
We made a deal. Sue and I made a deal. Our deal was to it's Ashley Renee and Brooke Ray. I said it right the first time.
Okay.
It's Ashley Renee and Brooke Ray.
You definitely said Brooke's middle name's Renee.
What did I say the first time?
Oh, no.
Wait till you have children, Abby.
Yeah,
you're gonna mix up.
Wait till you. But here was our deal. Susan, mine. I got to name the boys. Yeah. Yep.
How many boys
How
do you
many of
have?
those boys did you have?
Yep.
How many? None.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got a dog, and it was a boy dog, and they let me name it. That was a huge
that's
moment
nice.
in my life.
And you say they don't care.
Yeah, who says they don't care?
I wanted to, knowing I was having girls, I wanted one to be kind of that tomboyish, what name could kind of transcend both a little bit of, because I wanted first of all, I wanted elegant names. Oh, like Paris. And the great thing about having twins, boom, you can knock down like 2 first names and 2, you get them all covered.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, how about Dallas and Paris? And then she was like, Shannon, I don't think so. So then,
I don't think so.
So then each day in the shower, I would do a public address like leading off the 6'2" junior. And that's how I would say what name sounds cool, like in an echo, today, I could, and then that didn't work. We just figured, okay, we'll knock off the grandfather with this, the D, but then you just start knocking on. But Cameron became that because it had a little bit of we have no Camerons in our family. So it was like that was the boyish, girlish Thomas boy. So I got that.
And Sue and I had kind of figured out what was causing it, so we were going to quit. And Brooke was going to be our last child, right? And so I was, my dad was Ray, and it was the next generation, and Dad died too early, and so that's why I pushed for, and I actually got the name Ray.
Ray.
Now here's the big debate.
But hers is spelled.
I think Sue spelled it on her birth certificate R-A-E.
And you were thinking
I wanted
R-A-Y.
And to this day, I think that Brooke goes by R-A-Y.
Nice.
I think
to
so.
honor
Which,
Grandpa.
thank you, Butts. Appreciate that.
Nice.
So what nickname did you have for each one of your girls?
I don't think I had a nickname for, we just shortened the.
Could you tell them apart when they were little?
Cameron, get over here. I'm Samantha. That's right. Come here, honey. That happened.
That's right.
Samantha, dear. I'm Cameron. I know.
Dress Cameron like an only pink, Sam in only blue.
Did you think about tattooing one of them?
We won, but
They
one
did
had
that one
with
family.
mirror twins, one had a little birthmark, not a big one, just a little spot here, a little spot there, and like with mirror twins. I'd always look at the top of their head. Anybody with mirror twins, identical twins, because the tops of their heads, the part runs this way and this way. So if you had a muskmelon and
Okay.
you pop it. And,
You're comparing your. Oh, no.
now I'm in trouble.
It's like the way things swirl in Australia versus here. Right?
But I'd have to every now and then cheat, just kind of go over the top.
Which one is
I
that?
got Cameron. I know. I
don't know how they got the nickname, but I called Ashley Boog and Brooke Butts.
Butts and Boog.
Boog.
Boog?
Yeah.
Boog?
Boog.
Like boog?
Like a booger?
I don't
short
like
for
Boog Paul.
Oh, boog?
Like Boog.
Boog or
No,
Boog?
like booger.
Okay.
Booger. Boog. And it wasn't because of a booger. It wasn't.
She had nose problem.
Is booger a real word?
Booger?
Booger.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
slang for.
I mean, it's in the Webster. Right?
It's slang for the dried cells that collect in your nasal passage.
Slang.
Told you he was into Bill Nye today.
Well, I've been studying bugs.
What did you watch on Netflix this weekend?
I just say this while people eat their breakfast. I did watch a movie. It isn't always dried.
No. I mean, it's attached sometimes to
Runaway by Del Shannon.
Runaway.
Hey, I'm
by
playing
Slade.
Take It on the Run.
Oh, did we forget one?
How did we miss that? Run away.
That's a Slade song.
What about Run Around Sue? Is that a song?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it top 4?
No.
Is it?
From a run around
Did she marry Billy Baru or Joel?
Hey. I'm telling you, Billy Baru.
Oh, that's yeah.
3 seconds. What do you mean 2? 1?
Should he be Attorney General in South Dakota? We'll ask you right after this. message to our iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club to 35270, or you can always call in on our Laney's News and Views studio line at 1-800-880-5346 here in Gunderson's studio. So just let you know that we've got some things today I want to ask you. And start thinking about this before you just get mad and answer it. Are you nothing but a hypocrite if you say that a vote that you're going to make on a black female justice is historic and she's incredibly well qualified, and yet you still vote no? and yet you still vote no. And you say this moment is historic. Well, you're on the wrong side of history. That's my take. I want to get your take. Are you in any way, shape, or form wrong if you're sitting there saying, we've got to support Ukraine, we've got to get the money to Ukraine, and then at another point, you're sitting there saying, but let's hold their funding back unless they do for us what we want them to do politically? Well, a lot of things to talk about. Linda Duba is our guest. She is a South Dakota State representative. She represents District 15 out of Sioux Falls, and she was one of the individuals that voted to impeach South Dakota Attorney General Jason Ravensburg, which that's a tough vote. Going back to the whole issue of which party you're from, no matter what party you're from, when you vote to impeach someone who's been elected, that's a hard vote. And so I want to talk to Representative Duba. Representative, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate this.
What an honor to be on your show today. Thank you very much.
I have to ask you why. What in the end tipped the scale to where you would vote to impeach like you did?
I read every single piece of investigation. We got access to the file about a week or two before we had to make our vote. So I read all of the files. I listened to every single interview that the Highway Patrol conducted. And by the way, two of the lead investigators were from North Dakota, and they did a phenomenal job. I was extremely impressed with them. And then I went back also. We also had the videos of the two questioning sessions that those same North Dakota Highway Patrol investigators had with Attorney General Ravensburg, and I listened to those and watched them. It was glaringly evident that Attorney General Ravensburg did not have his eyes on the road when he struck and killed Joe Beaver. Absolutely. And in fact, he was driving on the shoulder of the road, not just for 10 feet, but they haven't been able to determine, but it was for a period of time. So those two factors, plus the additional information that the investigators uncovered about the length of time it took him to stop, the fact that he walked past Joe Beaver's body in the ditch, not once, but twice. And then some of the evasive answers that he gave, swearing that he had not been on his phone, he'd only called his father, and then, the fact that he was distracted. He couldn't tell the truth. And then the last thing, but I had already made up my mind the night before that I was going to vote to impeach. The last thing was the 4-page letter that he sent to all of us at 9:42 p.m. the night before the session that we were to hold. And he declared his innocence and refuted every piece of the investigation, and it was unbelievable. It was just inappropriate, unbelievable, and it flew in the face of the family of Joe Beaver and what the investigators did.
There's always been a sense that the Attorney General Ravensburg, lied. Do you think he lied? Or do you think that some other circumstance made him do what he did after the event?
I think he lied after. I believe he hit Joe by accident because he wasn't paying attention. Mm-hmm. And that in and of itself, he would not take responsibility or be accountable for that action. And then all of the actions that he took after that, were to protect himself and to cover up. And there are many things that, I could point to. The fact that he actually went to one of the folks that works for him in the Attorney General's area, and he said, so if they, what can they find out about my cell phone? Well, that's pretty suspect. Yeah. And the person that he did that to, he even lied about how he approached the individual. So he was in cover-up mode from the start. And he did not hit a deer, and he knew he didn't hit a deer. He said when he called 911. Who calls 911 when they hit a deer?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't call 911. And then he said, I was in the middle of the road. Now, all of the investigators proved that he was clearly on the edge of the road, all four tires, because Joe Beaver was literally walking next to the grass. So he started telling untruths basically from the moment of impact.
See, and Representative Duba, why I really believe that you got this vote right is because of that. He started lying, which tells me that he knew something that he wasn't willing to confess to or admit to. Somebody asked me how I would have voted on this, and I said, you know what, if it was a tragic, terrible accident, and he would have come clean right away and said, look, this is what happened. I wasn't paying attention the way I should have. Yes, it was dark. Yes, he was, by the road, but it's on me. I made this mistake. I think he'd still, he wouldn't have gone through an impeachment process. I really do. I think, no, I think that.
No, he wouldn't have.
Yeah. I think it's because he lied that's getting him in trouble, Representative Duba.
That's absolutely it, because he's not showing integrity. He is the top law enforcement officer in the state of South Dakota, and yet he cannot, and he just refused. He has never been under oath. He was asked by the committee to come and testify, and he refused. But yet he sends us a letter and protests his innocence at 9:42 p.m. the night before the proceeding. That has to tell us a lot about his lack of integrity.
So the process, he's in front of your chamber, or the question's in front of your chamber over whether or not to impeach. This vote happened, and the votes were there to impeach him. Now it goes over to the South Dakota Senate. So he has been impeached. It's whether or not he'll be convicted. Am I right about this?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you, because most people in your line of work, I know because I was one of them, we're pretty good at counting noses. Do you think that the Attorney General Ravnsborg will find himself being convicted?
Boy, that's a tough question. I'm going to tell you two things about the Senate versus the House of Representatives in South Dakota. The Senate tends to be more grounded, and they look at information and make their decisions based on information. So that's the first thing. It was a very contentious year in the South Dakota legislature this year. The House and the Senate were at odds the entire year. I serve on the House Appropriations Committee and Joint Appropriations. And at one point, things were so contentious, the House saying, we're being bullied, the Senate thinks they know everything, that we literally split apart as an appropriations committee. And there was just a lot of unnecessary work being done, and there were unnecessary bills being brought by the House Appropriations Committee. We eventually were able to get our work done, but I'll tell you the other thing. The prosecutor that the Senate Pro Tem is bringing in, he'll do his job, and he will do it well. He was working with the state's attorney out of Hyde County, but pulled away from the case. Now, do I know why he did that? No, but when he had pulled out before any charges were announced. But I know he, with along of several other state's attorneys, had said or privately said, manslaughter charges should have been brought in this case. So I think he will present a very tough case. And the senators, they need to listen. They need to do what I did. They need to go read the files and study the information and listen to the case that's being built and then cast their vote.
That's really good advice. And they need to not go in a room and say, look, it's going to take this many votes to convict him. Who can I have that's a yes? And here you guys get a pass as a no, because votes like this really, they're not as effective if you win by one. And that's a lot harder to do. They
show character. These are the tough votes that the people of South Dakota have asked us to make, regardless. Now, we had a representative, I don't know if you knew this, but not everyone voted that day. We had a representative who's running for U.S. Congress that didn't even show up that day to take the vote. Yep. And that, again, where's that character?
Yeah, there's a lot of names you can use for that right there. There is. Representative Duba, I've heard so many great things about you. Jason Frerick, Steve McClary, Jamie Smith, who I'm getting to know. I've got to meet you in person, and I appreciate you coming on with us today.
Well, thank you very much. It's just a privilege to be on your show, and I know the great work that you do for the people. By the way, I loved your questions at the top of the hour, especially about the upcoming Supreme Court vote. And again, it's a vote of integrity and courage. And, that's the way those votes need to be taken.
You don't get to have it both ways with history. You don't. You don't get to say this is historic, and boy, I hope nobody notices that I voted against. So, thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Hey, stay warm up there. We didn't get a lot of snow down here, but you guys stay warm and safe. Take care.
Linda Duba, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the weather cave and find the Mr., the boss, the man, Too Tall Tom Szymanski. You're your host, Abby Miller, your producer. We're going to talk a little bit about and get your take after the bottom of the hour on whether or not you're nothing but a doggone hypocrite. If you, ready? Finish that sentence. If you say that someone is incredibly qualified and has done a fabulous job in the hearings, and it's a historic moment, I mean, do you get to say it's a historic moment if you voted against her? I mean, that's what Kevin Kramer and John Hoeven did. They acknowledged she was qualified. They acknowledged she did a great job in the hearing. And then they voted against her. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if somebody does the Google, if somebody checks this out, if they use their search engine and just check it out, they're going to find out that I voted against her at this historic moment in history when a black woman actually was placed on the Supreme Court. And so what do we do to solve that, right? We say words like historic moment, as though I was in support of the whole thing. You know, for all of you that are mad, that are saying, well, she got on the court, and the only reason she got on the court was she was a black woman. That's the only reason she got on the court? Did you listen to the hearing? Did you hear how qualified? She got the hearing because she was a black woman and incredibly qualified. Yes, President Biden told the United States of America, if you vote for me, my first appointee to the Supreme Court will be a black woman. And so you knew it. And 7 million more Americans voted for him based upon that knowledge. They had that knowledge. Might not be the sole reason they voted against him. A lot of them voted against him to vote against Donald Trump. I get that, but they knew it. They knew it going in. So, and they knew that he wanted the court to more resemble America, which, by the way, in the United States of America, there are black women. Okay, just in case you're wondering about that, there's black women in the United States of America. So to sit there now and claim that, oh, this is such a historic moment when you voted to not make it a historic moment, you don't get to have it both ways. You do not get to have it both ways. And I'm going to give you another example, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot sit there, and I'm sitting here reading reports about Hoeven and Kramer supporting the president in withholding aid to Ukraine based upon something he wanted Ukraine to do for him politically. That's blackmail, okay? That's blackmail. And so you have no standing, Kevin Kramer, and you have no standing, John Hoeven, when you're going to sit there and defend Donald Trump withholding giving money to Ukraine and now say this administration isn't doing enough in terms of getting aid to Ukraine. Do you see what I'm getting at? I mean, you don't have to be in your first year of college. Heck, you don't got to be in your first year of school, period, to realize these guys are hypocrites, that they're being hypocrites. They just want to claim it at this time in history when they were on the wrong side of it. Okay. Do I believe that race played a role in it? Do I believe being a female played a role in not garnering the vote of Senator Kevin Cramer, John Hoeven? Do I believe that comments like mine contribute to the growing problem of violence, black nationalists, like what you saw last week in Brooklyn? No. I believe that comments like this are comments that, if you have an intelligent conversation about them, actually advance, the fact that society gets past what was being screamed about and used as a tool to attempt to kill people in Brooklyn. Okay, so let me give you an example. I was one of the first people that came out through media and said to say that we're going to defund the police is an absolutely ridiculous statement to make. And they're saying, well, that isn't what it really meant. No, you were taking money from the police department and you were putting it into areas where it wasn't going to go to protect people. And then you called it defund the police. So, no. And that was worthy of a debate. Now, did that lead to protests? Yes. Did that lead to rioting? Some of which, yes. But the fact of the matter is, I'll stand with and support the police any day of the week and twice on Sunday. So here's what I'm getting at. You have an opportunity to speak to each one of these issues. It doesn't have to be a blanket. It doesn't have to be I will always do what you tell me to do. And let me give you that example. Ukraine. Donald Trump didn't want money to go to Ukraine until he knew more about Hunter Biden. Right? He was going to withhold any aid to Ukraine until he got what he wanted, which he thought was going to be political dirt on Joe Biden. So is that to be supported? Now, if you're Kevin Cramer and you're John Hoeven and you support Donald Trump in that and say, no, he's right to do that, does that make you a hypocrite now when you say we're not getting enough aid to Ukraine? Because that aid that was sent or could have been sent and was eventually sent to Ukraine was the type of aid that they needed before all this happened, before all this hit, before Russia declared a war and took after the Ukrainian people, the innocent people, the women, the children. That's what's going on. And so what do you see today? Because the whole thing is we're supposed to say whatever this guy on the mountain tells us to say. In this case, the guy on the mountain is Donald Trump, right? What is he telling us to do today? It's not as easy now that he doesn't have Twitter. It's not. You can't get up in the morning and go, okay, what's my marching orders? Let me see. What is Donald Trump telling me? All right, there. I know what I'm supposed to say, and I know what I'm supposed to do. And if you think it's just the far right that was doing that, it wasn't. These marching orders came down. These guys weren't calling Donald Trump every day and saying, what do I do today? How do I not make you mad? What do you want from me? No, they were going on Twitter, and they were looking at it, and they were going, all right, don't want to tick him off. That's the big gun right there. And, and the scary thing is maybe they agreed with it. But when somebody comes out and says, money has been approved to go to Ukraine, but I'm not going to send it until I can get the political goods on my opponent, and then you support that, you come out and say there's no quid pro quo here. I mean, at some point when you say this is historic, it is historic. It is. It's absolutely historic. Your vote is on record. Your comments are on record. When you say that somebody is incredibly qualified and then you won't vote for her after the terrible, terrible way she was treated in that hearing, you won't vote for her, then don't act as though this is a historic moment that you want to join in on. What's historic is the fact that you wouldn't support her. Now, Democrats have gone way too far in hearings as well. I said that. I said that during the time. I also said that any woman accusing a future Supreme Court justice of rape deserves to be heard. There. I mean, you can, in that particular case, do your due diligence and do your homework. What I don't understand is in this day and age, how one could think that you could have it your own way, be on the right side of history, and then vote the other way without conversations like this. There's going to be conversations like this. And so if you're sitting here saying that I'm creating violence, that I'm responsible for what's happening in terms of black people protesting, then you're wrong. Then you're wrong. It's just not going to be there. Joel, I think it's sad we are so focused on race and gender. Why can't we support the best candidate regardless of all race and gender? Just go off qualifications. What about her wasn't qualified? Sure, she got the opportunity and she got looked at because she was a black woman, because they wanted the court to be more representative of the United States of America. If that court never had a white male on it, do you think Donald Trump would have promised to put a white male on it? Do you remember when Donald Trump said that it had to be a Christian to be on the Supreme Court? Do you remember that? Now, what if someone that was an atheist would have made a great Supreme Court justice? What if a Muslim? What if a Hindu? I mean, pick any one. What if that individual was Jewish? Then they wouldn't have qualified by his litmus standard? I guess what I'm getting at is where, yes, he said he was going to appoint a black woman, but that wasn't that hard. If you end up looking at the top candidates that he chose from, you're not going to have a hard time finding qualifications that met the standard of being on the Supreme Court. And I would argue with you that if you look at who some of the Supreme Court justices are now and what they're doing on the court, in terms of rule of law, in terms of following law versus legislating from the bench, she's better. I mean, she's better. She wouldn't answer questions that would have told you how she'd rule because she didn't have the case in front of you, her, and it didn't work by hypotheticals. And so no, I'm sitting here right now saying, and that if one president is going to say you have to be a Christian and the other president is going to say the people I'm going to look at are going to be black and they're going to be a female, then what is the difference? Then what is the difference? And if you're sitting there saying, let the people decide, let the people vote, I'm sorry. Mitch McConnell lost that. He won what he wanted to win. He got the court he wanted to get. It's going to be an ultra-conservative Supreme Court for the rest of my lifetime. And I am not someone who believes we expand the Supreme Court. But that being said, he got what he wanted because he played politics with it. Merrick Garland didn't get a hearing for 7 months. 7 months. All because of the fact that Mitch McConnell said, let's let the voters decide, it's an election year. The next time there was an election year when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, what happened? He pushed one through in weeks right before the election. Janelle, you're on News and Views. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah. Hey, Joel. I'm totally not surprised with Kramer and Hoeven and the way that how they voted against her, because look what they did to our own Oaks, North Dakota gal, Sarah Lee Nagala, when Biden nominated her for that position out in Connecticut. They couldn't even vote for their hometown people because that might be looked at as a Democrat thing. And, they only vote with their party. They do not look at anything twice. They're going to vote with the party. That's the way they are. It's time that we in North Dakota say we need people that are going to represent us, not just vote with the party, but what's best for North Dakota. And Sarah Lee Nagala, that was like an honor that she got, that she got nominated for that position. Her parents have done so many great things. They're doctors for the community down in Oaks and all around there. Hovind and Kramer are just a bunch of buffoons.
I represented Oaks. That was part of my legislative district. And I have to tell you, the sentiment that the people of Oaks have for Dr. Nagla's is amazing. Absolutely amazing. They love them. They realize that hospital is what it is because of them. And so I have to ask you this. Do you think that part of what drives them goes beyond politics and goes into race?
I don't think against race. I don't think it was that with Hovind and Kramer. I think it was more that they are just going to go vote the party line. They do not have the guts to stand up by themselves and say, this is not what's best for North Dakota. This is not what's best for the people that I'm representing. They just go by party line. I don't think they're racist. I just think that they only will vote with their party.
I just think that Judge Nagla was the easiest vote in the world to cast.
Absolutely.
I think that was the easiest vote in the world to cast. And it's one that, quite frankly, their staff that's listening right now wish you had never brought up. They really do.
And so are they only proud of the Republicans in this state?
Yeah.
Is that what it's about? They're only for the Republicans? Well, I'm not Republican or Democrat. I have a mind of my own, and I'm going to vote my own way. And they should be doing the same thing because they have people in North Dakota that are Republicans, Democrats, Independents. They should be representing their state. And if they aren't doing that anymore, they've gotten too caught into that big city politics. They need to go.
And I never knew what Nagla's politics was. They never wore it on their sleeve. So Thank you. Thank you for calling in. Let's get to the weather cave and get your weather forecast.
weather when you're doing April calving.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of April calving going on right now. So I feel bad for each and every rancher out there because right now, I mean, we're having like January-like temperatures in a lot of ways and, every other day blizzards and snow to be pushing and moving. And so it has been more than challenging, we'll say.
I went to church in WAP yesterday, and on the way home, on the way there, speed limit the whole way on the way home, like half of that, 3 cars in the ditch by then. It's just, it's been that type of spring. What's going on in the markets?
We're seeing some double-digit gains after the long holiday break as we are now seeing May corn up 15 1/4 at 8.05. December's at 7.45, 10 cents higher. May wheat up 29.5 cents at 11.74. September's at 11.58, 24 cents higher. May soybeans up 25.5 at 17.07. New crop November at 15.17, up 15 3/4. Mixed right now in the cattle market. May feeder cattle down 95 cents at 160.83. June live cattle up 43 cents at 136.85. And for May lean hogs, $1.80 higher at 114.55. With your markets, I'm Farm and Ranch Director Sarah Heinrich from the Enterprise Sales Ag Studio. With your markets for the News and Views Radio Network.
Thank you, Sarah. I want to get a couple things out there. Somebody makes a really, really, really good point here about hypocrisy in politics and how you like to live in both worlds. They're talking about a state representative from the Ledgewood area. Her name is Kathy Scraw, and she voted against. What they did was they took fallen police officers and their families qualified for health insurance in perpetuity, right? So it doesn't happen that often. And so this was a way of showing that we all, as society and as North Dakotans, were doing what we could to help that family make sure they had the health insurance they needed. Because you know what? Once they're off, they would have been off the state plan. So what happened? There were legislators that voted against that. Now, to Governor Burgum's credit, he fully supported it. He held a great big formal signing out in the Great Hall. There were families of individuals who had lost their loved ones in violence as police officers. Kathy Scraw from Ledgewood voted against it and then took the picture with the people that wanted it passed. And it was signed in the Great Hall. That's hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. That's hypocrisy. which to me is not fair to the rest of society to live your life in a way where we've got to meet certain criteria based upon you not being vaccinated. In other words, at some point, we're all going to say we don't care if you die, right? We're going to say we don't care if you die. You made the choice. You played the roulette machine saying it would never get to you. Now, there's individuals in my life that happened to, that they were adamant about not getting vaccinated and now are no longer here. That's a choice. That's a choice. Now, that being said, I haven't gone to see your sister-in-law either yet, Abby. I qualify for one more booster, and I haven't had it yet, full disclosure. And let's
get you boosted.
Yeah, it's mostly been about timing or maybe prioritizing would be a better way of putting it. I don't have the CDC on my side on this, but if tomorrow Joe Biden said, you know what, we're taking the masks off in the airports, I'd be all over that. I've been doing a lot of flying lately, and you've flown a lot lately, Ab.
Yeah.
I mean,
does it bother you, though, wearing a mask on a plane?
I think it bothers me more in the terminal than when I'm on the plane. You know, I'm on the plane.
Because the plane is so small and everyone's
right.
breathing the same air.
Right.
I get that.
And you can't get away from people.
Yep.
And so I wouldn't want to be. I think that when all of this is said and done, you're going to see people wear masks in planes a lot.
Yep.
I think that you're really going to see people wear masks in planes a lot.
But then I even think, like, a week or two ago, I got super sick. And I don't know if anyone else can attest to this, but before COVID times, I never got sick. I would get colds sometimes, but never anything worse. And since the COVID times, I would wear a mask so often and wash my hands all the time and hand sanitizer everywhere. And I've gotten sick so much in the past year or two, and it's never COVID. I take tests and it's never COVID. But I think my immune system has just gotten a lot weaker because COVID, we take so many extra precautions now.
I can tell you this, and realize this is getting to where it's just me and Abby, but when you work in any building, radio building like this, where people talk and lean into microphones,
yep.
No matter how bad you wipe them down, no matter how much you do, you get sick more. Yeah. I never got sick until I came into this building. And I'm not blaming the building. You talk to other people that work in radio and work into where they lean into microphones.
Yeah.
You're passing things on. As far as being in a plane, I can't imagine being so self-centered that if the rules were I had to wear a mask in the plane, I'd want to sit next to the person who wants me to wear a mask and I won't.
I was sitting by someone on a plane and he did not want to follow the mask mandate. And it made me very uncomfortable. So
what did you do?
Whenever the flight attendant came around, she would ask him to move it because he would just cover his mouth, not his nose. So she'd ask him to move it up. I didn't even say anything. I just kept my mask on and I had wiped down this was like in 2020, I think. So early.
It was all early, yeah.
Yeah. And I got on and I wiped my whole seat down with Clorox wipes because I was crazy and wore my masks and just kept way to the side. But it made me very uncomfortable that it was such an issue for him.
As soon as she'd walk away, he still went.
He would take it back down, yeah. Which is what's the point? I mean, I don't know.
Well, his point is he didn't feel he should have to, and
it restricted his breathing.
Well, he didn't give a damn about anybody else but himself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who they are.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's like, well, look at what we know now versus what we knew then. Well, that's the nature of it, right?
That's with anything.
If they're going to say, well, we shouldn't have had to do this, okay? Yeah. I mean, we didn't know. It's a process. You do what you do what you think is right when you do it, right? But here's one for you. I mean, you're sitting there saying, well, we shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't have to do this. How many of you that say that the vaccine was going to kill you are right? How many of you that said you're not going to be able to have babies after you take the vaccine are right? How many of you that said if you do this, your muscles are all going to deteriorate and you are going to find yourself in heart failure? How many of you are right? At what point do you sit there and say, you know what? here's the thing. I was wrong about the vaccine. I was wrong. The numbers are clearly there. The science is clearly there. What everybody who was against the vaccine was betting on was, or basically saying was, this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and then and none of it happened. I mean, none of it happened. At what point do you take a step back and say, I was wrong? Let's get to the Weather Cave and visit with Too Tall Tom and find out what's going on in our forecast. Tom? 6 to the phone lines in the order they come. Ruthie, you are on News and Views.
Yeah, good morning, Joel. I missed part of the interview with the lady from South Dakota, but now the Attorney General has to be a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
Okay, if this man is impeached, will he be allowed to practice law outside of being an Attorney General?
All he's being removed from is his job as an elected official. He's not being, it's not a criminal charge. He won a seat as Attorney General, and he's losing that if the South Dakota, Senate convicts him. He has been impeached.
Oh, it wouldn't affect his law license at all.
No, it would not. He might affect his clientele, but no, it wouldn't. So, thanks, Ruthie. Thanks for calling in. Let's get to Rich. Rich, you're on News and Views.
Hi, thank you. Say, I know for 2 years you've been going on and off about the mask deal, but do you know somewhere that you could either text a person or you could tell us on the radio where a test comparison was made that a mask was saving your life and not wearing one wasn't?
But that's a fair question to ask, Rich, but how would you gauge it? I mean, how do you know if
I know
if you never died from it? Do you know what I'm getting at, Rich?
Yep, I understand that, Joel. I'm just wanting to rattle your cage about it because people are mad. I don't fly in an airplane, and I can't wear a mask because I can't breathe. But I'm surely not wanting to kill anybody else over it either. But it's one of them things. But I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
We don't seem to talk much about all the people that are coming across the border and all the drugs that are coming across the border. Do you think that because your president is the one letting these people do this, that it should be just free and open, or do you think there should be something done about it?
Well, I think they are. They convicted more people last month than ever before in terms of people coming across the border illegal. And I would throw this at you, Rich. He's your president too. You may not have voted for him and you may not like him, but he's yours, right? The answer is yes, there should be something done. The answer is where I would really begin is I don't believe that the vast majority of people that are coming across the border are drug dealers. I'm sure there's some.
No,
but I think they're people looking for a better life. So if you want to stop them, I think there is a way to stop them, which is to stop. Word will get out, just like anything else. Word will get out that, hey, you can't get a job there. You can come across all you want, but you can't get a job there. And once you start convicting employers that know that they're hiring, illegal immigrants, then by God, word will spread. There's no jobs for you there. It's the very reason everybody went to California, right? There's jobs. So thank you, Rich.
Okay, Joe, thank you.
I consider my cage rattled, Rich, so I appreciate the call. When we come back, that's what we're going to do the whole rest of the way. We're going to take phone calls. Bring it on. I'll get my cage rattled. You got to love talking to a guy like Rich. But everybody wants that cheap labor, and nobody wants to go after the people that have that cheap labor. If you look at employers right now, they need workers. And so what are we going to do? We're going to fight over whether or not we can have workers come into this country. We need a better system is what we need. 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. Let's get back to the phone lines, and we'll get to Matt. Matt, you're on News and Views.
Morning, Joel.
Morning to you.
Couple comments on two topics if we got time. One about masks. My wife's an emergency room nurse, been taking care of people since this all started, and the nurses wear the same mask that the rest of us are wearing up until the time a patient's diagnosed with COVID. Then they garb up in an N95. If mask doesn't work, she should have had COVID about 100 times.
Yeah, she was around it.
She's rounded. She's right with them.
Right. Let me ask you this, though, Matt, before you go to number two, okay? In your wife's case, when she's alone, nobody knows who you are right now. Maybe somebody recognizes your voice, but it's worth doing this. What does she think when she finds out someone isn't vaccinated? Because I know she is.
Well, she and the rest of the nurses are disgusted.
Yeah. I mean, they're there. They're put basically in harm's way, and they have to deal with a patient that could have avoided, for the most part, being there. And that, to me, healthcare providers, when you talk to them, I think that they're reaching this point where it's like, look, what more do we have to do? I mean, really, but I'm glad to hear your wife's okay. What's the other one, Matt?
Well, a couple items on E15, and I'm not anti-ethanol. Don't get that idea, but you know, the day that Biden announced the E15 waiver, corn went down. And number two, last year, the total cost of renewable identification numbers, RINs, for ethanol was a little over $30 billion, which means the obligated parties, refiners and importers, had to pass that on to customers to the tune of 23 cents for every gallon sold.
Yeah, the one that shocked me there was the fact that corn did go down, right? Because if you're allowed to burn E85, you're going to get more corn used. Agreed?
But you can go back and look when the renewable fuel standard first went into effect and our ethanol consumption had never been higher, the price of corn was in the toilet.
Yeah.
So there's more than just E15 that drives the price of corn. And again, everybody's paid last year 23 cents a gallon because of the renewable fuel standard.
But
I'd like the farmers to get a good price for corn, but they're getting sold a bill of goods, thinking that this is its salvation.
Can I say this, though, Matt? When you talk to farmers who are around the ethanol plant, that sell to the ethanol plant, they get a premium on their corn versus what they get on a normal market, right?
That I don't know, but I do. You have to look at the market as a whole, and I'm just saying, yeah, farmers are told in their trade magazines that it's the salvation for them, but there's a little bit more to the story.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Tell your wife thank you for what she does. I appreciate it. Let's get to Paul. Paul, you're on News and Views.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. I appreciate what Matt just brought up because I want to follow up with that too, because I think we're being misled on this ethanol bid being the salvation of our energy crisis. Because if you talk to any farmer, wherever they run a coffee shop or in co-ops or in the elevator, there's no corn in the area. There's no corn to be used for ethanol use, and especially when Biden gets up there and says there's going to be a food storage. Why would you want to have a food source used as an energy source during a food crisis? It doesn't make any sense. I think it's hypocritical because this should be done when we have an abundance of grain and not when we don't have grain available. The grain that we have available now has to go to food stuff for our animal production, for our food production, for Americans. And I think it's just wrong to think that this is going to be the salvation of our energy, especially, Joe, when you guys are only 100 or 100 miles away from an oil source that is abundant. And I can't believe you guys aren't crying foul on this. I heard Sarah talking this morning, and she was all giggly about it. You were all giggly about it. I just can't find that optimism in looking at ethanol as our salvation. I'm sorry. I've worked in agriculture for 30 years. I've my brother farms, my brother-in-law farms, and I just can't get excited about what I'm seeing here as far as what Biden and the administration is doing with this energy. It does not make any sense. Educate me.
Paul, hang in there, though, because I want you to get a chance to respond to what I'm saying. Number one, you don't have to sell your corn to the ethanol plant, okay? Number two, I don't think that anyone was saying that this was going to be the salvation to the energy crisis. It was going to help. That got mentioned. But being the solution, I don't know anybody from either side of the issue that felt that. Now, whether or not there's enough feed for livestock out there, that in large part is still up to the individual producing the livestock, right? I mean, the ranchers I know, they raise their corn for their livestock.
I agree. I'll rebuttal that right now. In that, that's right. But ethanol, the cost at the pump is already 10 to 15 cents cheaper than it is with regular gas, blended gas, in fact. And yet, you talk to these co-ops, and they're not selling an abundance of ethanol E85. Even with the price being as low as it is, Joe, they're still not selling it. They can't even tell me if it's really increased or not.
Well, and
so we already have that.
Paul, Abby and I had this discussion on the break, okay? She runs E85. I don't run E85. I usually run E10 is what I run, Paul. I drive a lot. I'm driving 130 miles a day to go to work and back.
Right.
So I don't want the reduced mileage because I don't want to be at the pump more often than when I'm at the pump. Now, whether that's spoiled or whether or not that means I don't support farmers, I think I've got a pretty good track history of supporting farmers. But, when I was talking to Abby about it, and I'm not throwing you under the bus, Ab, but E85, you pull up to the pump, you see it's cheaper, and you buy it.
Oftentimes, yeah.
Right.
Especially lately.
And did you know that you got considerably less mileage because of it?
I did. I learned that recently. So when I drove to Minneapolis and I didn't get E85. But if I'm driving around town, I tend to, even though I probably get worse mileage driving around town.
Okay.
And Abby, I appreciate that. I really do. And I appreciate everyone using E85. I have a diesel truck, and I tried the biodiesel, and it was horrible. My exhaust system was cleaning out like every 20, 30 miles. And I tried it. I get that. The other point I want to bring to Joe is that I agree. These ethanol plants have been a salvation for our growers, giving them another source for marketing. I agree 110% with you. The fructose plants, again, another source for our growers. I've seen the prices go up once we had Cargill coming into Wahpeton and ethanol plants coming into Hankinson, North Dakota. I saw them prices. I physically saw them prices. I agree 100%. But we're in a different situation now, Joel. And you got to agree that during a food shortage, which Biden says we're going to experience, we cannot afford to use our food stuff as an energy source. It's not when you're 200 miles west of you, Joe. Sitting there in the ground is an abundance of natural gas and fuel for our source. And you know what? I saw Heidi on the TV, and I don't see her as a rah-rah for North Dakota. I really don't. I wish she would be. I like Heidi. Yeah. I like her as a senator. I'm a conservative, and I'm very conservative, but I appreciate people that go to Washington and fight for the little people as Heidi has, and I appreciate that, but I don't see her as the rah-rah for North Dakota and what we have in that ground. And I think it's a shame. I'm going to let you go.
You bet.
I appreciate talking to you.
Yeah.
And Abby, I appreciate you letting me come on. But I can't agree with you.
You bet. I got it, Paul. I'll never forget. Now, don't forget how the oil industry works, though, as well. I want to, from the pure political side, and when I think about oil, I think that Heidi spends a ton of time explaining the energy industry to my side of the aisle. that already has their mind made up, oftentimes without having a conversation about it. So there's full acknowledgement on my side. Now, that being said, when you look at it from our particular standpoint, it doesn't do you any good. Paul talked about an energy shortage, or not an energy shortage, a food shortage. Come on, Joel, get your Monday together. So there's no reason that we should be putting corn into fuel when we have oil and we've got a shortage when it comes to food, right? Okay, I'll give you an example of something that Heidi did. It was illegal to ship oil produced in this country overseas, right? That was illegal to do. Congress changed that, and they changed it because of two words, Heidi Heitkamp. She went to the Democratic Party and she said, look, this is a commodity that private industry is producing. And if they want to sell it here, and we have an abundance of it at $30 a barrel, we should get an opportunity then to sell that product on an international market. Okay. Right. So the Democrats, because of Heidi, said, well, okay, if we're going to elect Democrats from oil country, we got to listen to them. And they won. Now, the first thing that the oil industry did was they came out against Heidi Heitkamp. That's exactly right. I mean, Harold Hamm, who asked Heidi and who made all these great claims about Heidi, Harold Hamm instantly became the finance chairman for Kevin Cramer's campaign. And so if you're sitting there saying that my side of the aisle doesn't understand energy, I think you need to understand that energy could give a damn about my side of the aisle, right? That's just the truth. That's the flat out truth. And you know what? When somebody backstabs you, it's a hard thing to forget. It really is. Let's go to the weather cave and find Mr. Too Tall Tom Szymanski. there. I got it out there, and I apologize for not doing that sooner. Let's get to Herb. You're on News and Views. Go ahead, Herb.
Yeah, I was going to call about the border, but Paul had a good call, so I wanted to comment on that. Good for Heidi for getting that bill passed that we can export more energy. Only problem is Biden's policies have us importing energy, not exporting it. So that's not doing a heck of a lot of good right now.
Herb, I get to ask you this, though. When you've got a bunch of capped wells and you won't uncap them, when you won't produce because now you have oil above $100 a barrel. I mean, do you look at the oil industry and say, do your part here?
To a certain extent, but I can see the oil company not wanting to put millions of dollars into a well when they have an anti-energy administration that could pull the plug on them at any time.
Well, I guess from my standpoint, if I'm making over $100 a barrel, I'm gonna produce, and they're not producing at the rate they can, and yet they're making record profits. For them, this administration has been a windfall. I mean, Herb, they're making money, a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but they're not producing, and they produced under Trump, and they were making a lot of money also. That's not true. That's
not true. Their profits are way up. They've got record profits. Under Trump, the price per barrel actually got down to $30 a barrel.
Okay, so you're saying that Biden's. I'll tell you what you need to do. You get, because I'm not sure if I have all the facts on this. You get Lynn Helm on your show. Lynn Helms. He's got a list of 13 specific things that the Biden administration did right after they got into office that hurt North Dakota and National Oil.
That's fair. Herb, that's fair. I'll make that phone call, okay?
All right.
All
okay,
right.
Thank you.
You bet. Appreciate the call. What I'm also going to do, though, is get a chance to ask Lynn Helms about what the oil industry has done in regards to meeting the demands of this country. Now, everyone knows that Lynn is very pro-oil industry. He's supposed to be regulating it at the same time he's promoting it. Money. They are making record profits, and they didn't make record profits in the previous administration. Now, the truth of the matter is, I don't think that's Trump's fault. I don't think it's Biden's fault. I think we came out of a COVID world, and people are spending money and get moving again. Good riding with you, folks.